It's understandable.
Hey everyone, it's Brian here from Massey's Main Entertainment. We're back this week, a little bit late because we've got a couple things going on personally for part eight, actually part nine. Oh, almost lost track myself. Part nine of our series of the top 100 favorite movies of all time. Joining me tonight are all my friends. Doc getting fresh back from Montreal. He was the
Sure.
reason we had to go a couple days late. He evidently had some drinking to do and he had to take a few days off. And Rich Strickler, how you going, Rich? Rich is excited for the football season. Got a lot of things going there. And Randy Nelson, who thinks his Chiefs are still going to win it all this year. Probably not this year, but anyway, good money's on Dallas this year. I know it, but anyway.
Ooh.
Anyway, so here we are. We're going to count down our part nine here of our favorite 100 movies. So that will make us going from number 20 down to number 11 tonight. So now we're talking about some serious movies, and this is where I start to feel like we're going to be repeating a lot, maybe having a lot of the same. And then we're getting to the point now where I think because I know Doc and Rich so well that I know what movies are kind of coming. Maybe the order I don't know exactly. Randy here is just an anomaly. I think he just does this to us on purpose. He just picks all these old movies just to kind of mess with all of us, but I have no idea what Randy's going to have and in what order. So this is it's going to be a treat. Guys, are you ready for this now? We're in the top 20 now. You guys all ready?
I'm ready to rock and roll, baby. Bring it.
Let's go.
All right. So up first tonight, Randy, you went last week, so you get to go first and really mess with our minds. Let's do it, man.
All right, going down to this top 20, it's movies I've always loved here. So number 20 on my list from 1944, Double Indemnity, Billy Wilder. Fred McMurray stars as an insurance agent who gets suckered into an insurance fraud and murder by falling for a seductive client in Barbara Stanwyck, who is one of the best femme fatales in film noir history. Fred McMurray is also great at playing a chump with Edward G. Robinson as his boss. It's kind of figuring things out. It's a somewhat unique noir in that the protagonists are in effect murderers. It's from a James M. Cain novel with Raymond Chandler actually helping out Billy Wilder with the screenplay. It's also a story that is somewhat afoul of the production code at the time. It's seedy noir excellence, and that's my number 20. Number 19 from 1946, Howard Hawks' The Big Sleep. This is a movie where nobody is really able to follow the plot, not even the writers, I think, when they wrote this movie. But it's the strength of the characters in this tale that propels it to excellence. Humphrey Bogart as Detective Philip Marlowe gets involved in a complex case involving murder, blackmail, and romance. He gets to deal with two alluring sisters that create more roadblocks than answers. There's some great back and forth dialogue with Bogart and Bacall in this one. And the movie's just such a fun watch that you don't care that you're not necessarily following the plot. Number 18, I think somebody mentioned this one before. From 1941, The Lady Eve, directed by Preston Sturges. This is my favorite Sturges film and has Barbara Stanwyck at her most hilarious, which shows that she could do comedy just as well as she could do drama. And also shows that Henry Fonda also had some comedic chops. It also has a wonderful character actor, Charles Coburn, as a swindler cohort to Stanwyck, with millionaire Hank Fonda being the mark. It also has one of the most hilarious scenes in the movies where Stanwyck returns as a different person, befuddling Fonda and giving another great character actor and William Demarest a great line in this movie toward the end. It's comedy at its finest. Number 17. Yeah, I'm going back in the old times here. 1950, I've got Sunset Boulevard, directed by Billy Wilder. I've got another Billy Wilder film here, and one of the most unique beginnings with a corpse face down in a swimming pool, providing the opening narration. It's a wicked tale with William Holden starring as a struggling screenwriter working for a fading film star in Gloria Swanson. Swanson is fantastic in this. and has some of the most famous lines in movie history. It's a noirish tale that looks at the underside of Hollywood, and it just gets better with age. All right, number 16 from 1946. It's a Wonderful Life, directed by Frank Capra. This movie has become a Christmas staple, but met with mixed reviews actually on release. It's a great story of realizing your individual worth and how different the world would be without you. James Stewart is given a glimpse of this scenario through an angel played by Henry Travers. It's a timeless movie that seems to improve with every viewing, and familiarity does not dampen its impact. It's on about every Christmas, and I watch it about every Christmas. Number 15. I think Brian mentioned this one. From 1941, The Maltese Falcon, directed by John Huston. Humphrey Bogart stars as the classic Dashiell Hammett detective Sam Spade, interacting with a trio of criminals, and Peter Lorre, Sidney Greenstreet, and femme fatale Mary Astor. Bogart as the cynical detective is what propels the story, and his interactions with the other players vault this to the top of the hard-boiled detective genre. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better assemblage of actors to play off each other in any movie, but I can watch this one anytime. 14 from 1954. It's the George Cukor directed film, A Star is Born. This is the second telling of the story, the first being with Frederick March and Janet Gaynor, but this is the best one with Judy Garland and James Mason. Garland is excellent and does some great songs and routines. What separates this is James Mason, who gives one of my all-time favorite acting performances. And as he sees his career being upstaged by Garland's in this movie and her burgeoning fame, his final scene with her is one for the ages, acting at its finest. Number 13, from 1974, I have Chinatown, directed by Roman Polanski. Set in 1930s LA, this hard-boiled detective, I think I've said that several times, hard-boiled detective is full of intrigue with corruption, conspiracies, murder, and an unsettling secret underlying that drives the action. I think it is one of the most perfectly constructed movies. There's not a wrong turn anywhere, with Jack Nicholson great as the cynical detective Jake Gittes, with a cleverly plotted story that has many twists and turns, but in the end reveals a story of fatalism, a fact that Nicholson is reminded about with the famous ending line. To me, it's a perfect film.
Mm-hmm.
Number 12, from 1958, I have Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo here. One of the most amazing photograph films of all time, with unique camera angles, a Salvador Dali-esque dream sequence, changes of camera perspective, and fluid camera movements. It also has James Stewart at his most obsessive, perhaps falling for the dream of a girl more than the girl herself, which would be Kim Novak in this movie, which leads to this chilling climax. It's often been voted on as one of the best movies of all time, but you may see another Hitchcock film ahead of this for me.
Okay.
And number 11, last one here. From 1956, I have John Ford's The Searchers, one of the greatest Westerns of all time, and perhaps John Wayne's best performance. He stars as a Civil War veteran, Ethan Edwards, on a singular mission to rescue his niece from the Comanches. But as the years go by, there is a question on how he will receive her. Is she the same girl that was captured when her mother and father were slain? And also, John Ford uses Monument Valley to just great effect, and has one of the most famous final shots in movie history, a Ford masterpiece. And those are my 10.
Wow.
I'm going to give you full support on saying the term hard boiled detective because it has a better ring than over easy or eggs Benedict detective. We're going to let that slide then, Randy. But I was more amazed that I don't think you had anything more contemporary than 1974.
I don't think
Now,
so.
actually, I did a count up of that because as it was going, it was obvious where the strong suit was. He's got 8 films out of the 10 that were before he was born, I think.
Wow.
It's interesting.
Wow. I like
And
it.
4 of those are on my list at some point. I love the list. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great list.
Seen them all.
Yeah, a lot of those movies I've seen. Excellent. Rich, you're up next, buddy.
All right. Where Randy had 8 of 10 before he was born, I have all 10 of mine from the date I was born on. So we'll see how that plays out. Number 20, The Conversation from 1974. Francis Ford Coppola's really a character study. Played by Gene Hackman, as a surveillance expert who's recording this mysterious conversation in a town square in San Francisco, and it could lead to a potential murder. This was a film released between the 2 Godfathers, between Godfather 1 and 2, and it really cemented Coppola as one of the best directors of that era. It was influenced by Antonioni's Blow Up, which I had earlier in my list, the foreign film or the British film, and taps into Hackman's moral conscience, leads to some paranoia. It's really one of his strongest performances, although he wasn't nominated, which is mind-boggling to me. Supporting cast of John Cazale, Alan Garfield, Cindy Williams, Harrison Ford's in here, Terry Garr, and Robert Duvall. Just a strong mystery, whodunit kind of thing, and you'll be surprised at some of the twists and turns it takes. Number 19, I have The Graduate from 1967. Mike Nichols, timeless classic here, starring Dustin Hoffman as the recent college graduate. Ben Braddock, he gets involved in an affair with an older woman played by Anne Bancroft, eventually falls head over heels for her daughter played by Catherine Ross. All the hijinks that goes on between that. The great Simon Garfunkel soundtrack, which is hard to miss, and it adds quite a bit to the film itself. Ben Braddock is an aimless guy in his 20s. Like I said, he recently graduated. He's not sure he wants to be part of the establishment. He's not sure where his future is. And Anne Bancroft as Mrs. Robinson perfectly cast. The seduction scene and some of the revenge scenes at the end, the church scene. There's some really awesome stuff in this movie. The Graduate, 1967. And 18, Paths of Glory, 1957.
Nice.
Stanley Kubrick. This is one of the top of the list for me of anti-war films. Stars Kirk Douglas as a colonel in the French army here in charge of a suicidal mission, sending guys out from the trenches into the battlefield. And you know, an almost impossible situation. They're going to get mowed down on the other side. And eventually some of these soldiers refuse to go. They're charged with cowardice and court-martialed, and they face this firing squad. Kirk Douglas opposes this decision. He's a lawyer by trade and defends them in a court. It's emotionally gut-wrenching at times, very realistic. The photography is beautifully shot in black and white. The lighting is great. Those battle scenes in the trenches are unforgettable. One of Stanley Kubrick's best films. Ralph Meeker and Adolphe Menjou are added to the supporting cast in this. 17, I am on board here with Randy on Roman Polanski's Chinatown from 1974. Just standout performances from Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway. John Huston, too, is kind of menacing as the heavy in this, rich guy. A lot of mystery, suspense, family secrets, murder, corruption, twist turns, complex script, kind of labyrinthian plot, stylishly directed by Roman Polanski in 1930s Los Angeles. It's a dark, modern film noir. John Huston, of course, is more famous as a director, but he's very effective as an actor here, playing the father of Faye Dunaway. Nicholson, one of his best performances. And John Huston's character is so powerful, he'll go to any lengths to get what he wants. Number 16, Goodfellas from 1990, directed by Martin Scorsese. This is a first-hand account of the life in the mafia as told by Henry Hill, played by Ray Liotta. An inside look at his relationship with his wife, Lorraine Bracco, and his mob associates, Joe Pesci, the hothead, and Robert De Niro, shady and dangerous in his own way. Just a great cast. All the nuances of the mob scene with the nicknames and how to get rid of a body. Expertly directed here by Martin Scorsese, who really understands that genre and content better than anybody. That's why he has all these legendary mafia movies. Very stylish, fast-paced, violent, profane, and completely mesmerizing to me. Number 15, another Martin Scorsese movie. This time it's The Departed from 2006. It's just a star-studded cast. I love this movie. It never gets old for me. Undercover agents, moles, rats, informants, internal affairs, the Irish mob, the cat and mouse with the FBI and the state police. Got the early use of the cell phone as an important element in the film. Leo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson again appears in this one. Martin Sheen, Mark Wahlberg, Alec Baldwin, and Vera Farmiga. Just a loaded cast. Too many memorable scenes to talk about here, but it was a much deserving Oscar, I think, for Scorsese and the Best Picture winner for that year. And I'm going to go with a hat trick here of Scorsese films. My number 14 is Taxi Driver from 1976. I know it's dark. I know it's depressing. I know it's tough subject matter, but you want a portrait of an isolated loner and a human time bomb, and this is it. Robert De Niro here is Travis Bickle, the taxi driver. Just a dark, disturbed, deranged character study. He's disillusioned about the world. He's an outsider, completely disconnected from other human beings. So he meets Sybil Shepherd in a political headquarters office and somehow talks her into going out with him and takes her to, of all things, a porn movie. We've talked about this before. He's just flat out wacky and insane. And like I said, he's a human time bomb ready to explode, whether it be in a convenience store, a politician, a brothel. I mean, he has his moments. And I can't leave out Jodie Foster here as the 12-year-old prostitute. It gives one of the all-time supporting performances. Really, really difficult to put her in that situation, but she pulls it off marvelously. And later would have some Oscars to her credit. Harvey Keitel, Peter Boyle, Albert Brooks, and Sybil Shepherd are the supporting actors. So that's 3 Scorsese movies in my top 20. Number 13, Steven Spielberg, Saving Private Ryan from 1998. Again, this is a tough one to say it's your favorite, but the realistic battle scenes here, especially on the invasion of Normandy Beach, it's just devastating. It gives you so much respect for the soldiers who fought to protect our country and our way of life. And laying it on the line the way they did, just an incredible movie watching experience. I remember when it came out, I saw it early when it came out upon release, and I went back the next day because I couldn't believe what I saw. Just impossible to, I don't know how they capture it. It's so realistic. You think that you're on the beach with these guys. It's one of the best movie experiences I've ever had. As violent as it is, and it is extremely violent. It's tough to keep your eyes on the screen without turning away. Number 12, 1957, Sidney Lumet, 12 Angry Men, a flat-out masterpiece, a film that takes place almost entirely in the jury room, an inside look at the stress and moral dilemmas, personal values of the 12 men from the various socioeconomical backgrounds here brought together to decide someone's fate. Very detailed, tense, gripping, a brilliant film debut here by Sidney Lumet. And this cast here with Henry Fonda, Lee J. Cobb, Martin Balsam, Jack Warden, E.J. Marshall, Jack Klugman, Ed Begley, among others. First rate all the way. It's a It's grueling at times, but it's very rewarding at the same time because eventually I think they get this thing right. Number 11, again, a personal pick, Woody Allen's Annie Hall from 1977. Just a neurotic, witty, romantic comedy, autobiographical in many ways from his days as a stand-up comic. Growing up under the roller coaster on Coney Island, he's kind of crazy and his whole family's nuts. Lot of pop culture references in here. He meets Diane Keaton, Annie Hall, of course, and basically it's the story of their romance, the ups and downs. Got the slapstick humor here with the lobsters and the cocaine, and it's funny as hell. There's some nice touches of split screen animation where they're giving different slants on their own personalities and desires, and I just think it's a wonderful look at the 1970s as well. So Diane Keaton is especially good in this movie. Number 11, Annie Hall.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought Annie would make your top 10 for sure.
Just missed it.
Just outside, and ironic you had 12 Angry Men at 12.
That was on purpose.
Okay, I just thought maybe you were playing with us a little bit, and like your choice of Chinatown, and obviously, and I think you've mentioned a lot of the other movies I've already picked so far.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of matches there. The trifecta of Scorsese, great.
Yeah, 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
Dropping a bomb like that was a move, eh?
It was hard to separate it because I love them pretty much equally as much, so I just went to clump them.
I guess the surprising part about that was Taxi Driver being outside the top 10 is what I would say, for me.
Where do you see the top 10, Doc? Where do you see
listen, buddy, I love it. I'm loving the list, buddy. Don't get me wrong. It's all good. It's all good.
All right. Let's get to me here. Well, we already managed to hit on both. I managed to match with you and Randy. At number 20, I've got Chinatown, Roman Polanski.
Nice.
For all the things that you've already talked about here, I do agree with Randy. I think it's a near perfect movie. I said it's just wonderful across the board. Great performances by Jack and Faye and John Huston. You guys have already touched upon what it's about. You know, Jack Getz, a private detective, getting embroiled in this complex thing of corruption, and then in 1930s Los Angeles. I think it's a very important movie for the neo noir films that were being made, and it's a great screenplay too by Robert Towne. Just to mention that as well, I think it's great. Number 19, I've got 2001: A Space Odyssey here. I just watched a recent Bill Maher interview with Quentin Tarantino, in which he was trying to challenge Quentin Tarantino that he knew more about 2001 than Quentin, which is just, you're absolutely insane if you think you're going to know more about movies than Quentin Tarantino. But obviously, not really an all-star cast, except, you know, maybe the most notable name is the voice of Hal 9000, which was Douglas Rain. But it's a groundbreaking sci-fi film about a voyage to Jupiter to check out some sightings or something that they wanted to check out on a particular planet. It's widely regarded as one of maybe the most widely influenced in cinematic history. I've got the typical Kubrick tropes where you got very long shots and then very up close shots juxtaposed to that. And I think maybe one of the most unerring scenes is when they kind of lock themselves into a pod so that they could talk privately because they were worried that Hal was malfunctioning, and you were looking at Hal through his eyes and he was actually reading their lips, which, you know, almost makes it a horror movie in some sense in that regard. Number 18, I got The Deer Hunter here from 1978. Love the entire cast in this. It's got De Niro, it's got Walken, John Cazale. I mean, even though he only made a handful of films, he always made good ones. Meryl Streep was also in this one. This film chronicles the impact of the Vietnam War on a group of friends from a small Pennsylvania town, focusing on their experiences before, during, and then after the war. Deer Hunter is acclaimed for a powerful depiction of psychological scars left by war. Won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Director and Picture that year. So I think it's most notable for the Russian roulette scenes in there that are just absolutely mind-bogglingly intense. So number 17, Randy, I think you've already mentioned this one from 1969, Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch. Major actors include William Holden, Ernest Borgnine, Robert Ryan. A group of aging outlaws look for that one big score as the traditional American West is dying off. It's known for its graphic violence, especially at the end. That's just an absolute. I mean, I think they even make there's a cultural reference to it in the movie From Dusk Till Dawn, where George Clooney says he'll turn this place into the fucking Wild Bunch if he thinks somebody's messing with him. So I think that's, kind of tells you the tale of how that movie is. Really, I think it's credited for modernizing Westerns and introducing a more realistic, gritty portrayal of violence and morality in the West. Just a wonderful movie. One of my favorite Westerns of all time. Number 16, I've got Rich. I think you mentioned this one from 1946, The Best Years of Our Lives. William Wyler. I love this movie. During that time, I was like a secret crush on, to Teresa Wright. I think Wright. It was, and then Frederick March is in it. Dana Andrews, Myrna Loy, and of course Harold Russell, notable for his performance. Film follows these three World War II veterans returning home and struggling to reintegrate into civilian life. I think it is a dead-on portrayal from a lot of different perspectives about the type of anxiety that I think soldiers felt when that happened. I won 7 Academy Awards, and that included Best Picture. Just absolutely one of my favorite movies. Number 15, I've got Fargo here from 1996. Joel and Ethan Cohen. Obviously, when I first saw this, I think I watched it like 3 times in a row. I was just amazed at how much I love the movie. Frances McDormand's character with their Midwestern accent from Minnesota Midwestern accent was incredible. William H. Macy, an actor I barely knew at all, standout role for him, kind of put him into the forefront again. Great performances from Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare as the 2 villains who are hired by William Macy's character to kidnap his wife, and then so that he can get some money for some money that he owes other people for various things. It's a masterful blend of black comedy and crime drama, and it really showcases what the Coen brothers have, this really cool, unique style of storytelling. One for Best Actress for Frances McDormand in it, so really great. Number 14, I've got another movie from the Coen brothers, No Country for Old Men from 2007. Tommy Lee Jones. I think, my wife and I just had this conversation because I was talking about Malkovich in The Line of Fire and about how upset I was that he didn't win Best Supporting Actor until I said, well, yeah, Tommy Lee Jones did beat him out. So, but she's like, she didn't even think that was his best performance. She thought maybe this was his best performance. That or In the Valley of Ella. Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurh, great job. Josh Brolin does a fantastic job in this as well. Great cat and mouse tale of the 1980s Texas, where this hunter stumbles upon a drug deal gone wrong with a suitcase full of money, and then he's pursued by this relentless psychopathic killer. Really a force of nature in a lot of ways. It's critically acclaimed, won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and it's often regarded as the Coen brothers' best film. Bardem's portrayal is just outlandishly great. So, number 13, I've got 7 Samurai from 1954, Akira Kurosawa, Toshiro Mifune, Takeshi Shimura, Yashio Inaba. All those guys are in this film. There's several great samurai films that came out like within a 3-year span there, but this clearly is like the standout. A group of 7 samurai are hired to protect the village from bandits in the 16th century Japan. The film is a tale of heroism, sacrifice, and camaraderie. Obviously, the Western version of this becomes the Magnificent Seven, but I think this is a seminal work, and it influenced countless of films that are along the action adventure genre of this particular style. It's just incredible. Number 12, Unforgiven, 1992, Clint Eastwood. I think some of the best performances I've seen from a lot of these guys. Gene Hackman as Little Bill, Clint Eastwood as William Money, the aging outlaw, and Richard Harris, as English Bob, all do incredible jobs. I think if anybody has ever seen it, they mostly know it from maybe the last 15 minutes of the film where he goes to confront the people at the saloon after they've killed Morgan Freeman's character and then put him on display there. I think that is one of the most tense moments in movie history, is the conversation and the events that go on in that saloon at the end of the movie. Just incredible. Won Best Picture, Best Director, and really, I think it re-energized the prospects of doing westerns again. And then lastly, at number 11, guys, I've got Reservoir Dogs from Quentin Tarantino. Many regard, a lot of people will debate whether Pulp Fiction or this one is the best. This is my second favorite, so that kind of gives you a heads up of how this is going to go next week. Great performances, though, by Harvey Keitel, Steve Buscemi. Tim Roth is in it as the police detective who's undercover. I remember I saw an interview just recently with Michael Madsen, how he didn't want to be in the movie because he didn't want to play Mr. Blonde, who was going to get killed. So I don't want to get killed by Tim Roth. Can I get killed by? I want to get killed by Harvey Keitel. So he didn't want to be in it because of that reason. But this really put Quentin Tarantino on the map as not as an established director. He was already a talented writer. He had already wrote Natural Born Killers and True Romance by this point. And so he was a proven writer, but when he wrote the Reservoir Dogs, he fought and fought and fought for the right to just to be able to do it himself. And it's known a lot for its nonlinear narrative, which would be something that repeats in a lot of his movies. Great sharp dialogue, pop cultural references, and just all out glamorization of violence in a lot of ways that just put him and his particular style at the forefront that got mimicked by directors for years to come. So that's my 20 through 11, guys.
Excellent.
Great list.
Yep. One of my favorites on there. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Awesome. Randy's been quiet.
Randy's been very quiet. He doesn't want to say too much.
I've had quite a few matches with both you and Rich.
Nice.
Yeah, same here.
All right, Doc, you ready?
I'm all set. I'm all set to rock. Let's just do it, man.
Let's do it, man.
All right. And Randy, for you to make that comment right out of the gate there, you've only had matches with, Rich and Brian and stuff like that. At number 20, buddy, I got a soft spot for this movie too, man. So I'm going to 1946. It's a Wonderful Life for me. So, yeah, it's on every year. Can't say when I first started watching it. Probably at one time in my life, I had a little bit of a crush on Donna Reed. I just thought she was nothing wrong with that to look at. I'll tell you that. So,
nope.
But like you said, the story, the suicidal part of the story, and everything else that goes with it, as it unfolds, and what life would be without George Bailey in this picture, which is Jimmy Stewart's character. It takes a while for that to show up in the movie. So I love the first half of the movie, really, the first, even more than that, where it actually just shows you the story of George Bailey, which is really interesting enough. And then the second half where it really turns it on its head. And I don't think anybody can play that part like Jimmy Stewart, man. I just think he was almost like born for that role in one sense. He's such a natural actor anyway, I think, in everything that he does. So I got It's a Wonderful Life at number 20. Now remember, out there in YouTube land, this is favorite list, okay? This is movies that mean something to me. That's what it is. So that's what it is. Number 19 is 1978's Richard Donner's Superman. It is my favorite superhero movie. It is one that I still watch to this day. I think it's I think it gets overlooked for a lot of things, man. Yeah, it's campy, it's fun and everything else, and it's Superman, and it's, he comes to Earth, and he's 6'4", doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and always tells the truth. It's all that kind of stuff. It's Superman. But the character changes. Christopher Reeve's fantastic as Superman, man. He'll always be Superman to me. And the changes from Clark Kent to Superman and how that character just changes throughout. Really well done. And I think the script just gets overlooked. I think it's so well written by Mario Puzo. And I just think it's, we've talked about it before, guys. This guy wrote The Godfather. This guy can write anything, man. And it's witty, it's fun. Jackie Cooper, all the characters, they all have good quips in it. But the top of the ladder goes to Gene Hackman playing Lex Luthor for me. So Superman is just close to my heart, man. What can I tell you? I love the movie. They'll all be like that. It's going to be a doc list, so get ready. 1990, 1988. You want the action-packed guy flick of all time, man. I've got it for you, I think. Anyway, it was, still is to me. I got Die Hard. It's going to be a classic, man. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Still is. Yeah, I watched that Christmas. I don't know if it is a Christmas movie. It isn't a Christmas movie. It's got Christmas music in it. And there's one little plot hole that kind of stands out, but I've always overlooked it, and I really don't care. So, John McClane to the rescue to save the Nakatomi Plaza from the terrorist group that really is just a bunch of robbers played by Alan Rickman and stuff like that. So it's and trying to hook up with his wife and save his marriage. Die Hard is just a classic action flick, man. That's what I can tell you, and kind of brings that genre to the forefront of that. If they want an action flick, man, Die Hard's right there. So yeah, it's a guy flick, it's a doc flick, and it's on my favorite list, and it's on number 18. I also have a movie from 1977, Rich, because I know you had one in there. I think you had Annie. I think.
Yes, I did.
My list. Just missed my list, as you already know. But I am going to that steel town in Pennsylvania, buddy, for one of my favorite comedies of all time. You already know what it is, I'm sure, with the Charlestown Chiefs.
Yes.
I've got Slapshot.
Oh,
Number 17. We've talked about this movie many times, Brian, Rich, myself, Randy. I'm sure you're well aware that my avatar is from Slapshot, so I think you get an idea of what I think of this movie. So, Paul Newman's never been more vulgar in his whole life, and he was fantastic at it. Nancy Dowd wrote a really humorous, just a guy script, man. This is what it is, man. These are guy flicks. This is my kind of movies, man. So, Slapshot, I just think it's just one of the funniest movies ever. And yeah, it doesn't hold back on how it delivers the comedy, and it doesn't care. I just think it's George Roy again showing up with Newman, and I get one of my favorite comedies, man. That's just the way it is. Now, Randy, this might shock you, Randy, here, but I got number 16 from 1984. Yeah, I'm a baseball guy too, buddy, and this is where I have The Natural. So, because this is my favorite baseball movie. I think it's my favorite baseball movie of all time. One of my favorite sports movies of all time. And yes, it's a fantasy. It's Roy Hobbs. Sounds a lot like Ty Cobb, but yeah, it's Roy Hobbs, played by Redford. Barry Levinson movie. Barbara Hershey. Wilfred Brimley, Richard Farnsworth, Glenn Close as the love interest that he had when he was younger, and meets up again later on in life after some stuff happens to him. But he is the natural, right? He was a pitcher, then turned out to be a hitter and everything else. And it's just a fantasy baseball movie with corruption on the side. So, love the score, love the scenery, love the way it's done. Yeah, Redford might have been a tad over for the whole role as an age goes, but I love the movie, man. It's like I said, it's my favorite baseball movie, and it's one of my favorites. That's why it's at number 16. I'm gonna turn on an ear here. So, 1979, Alien. What can I tell you? Horror in space, man. Maybe you had that one before too, Randy. I can't recall.
I did have
Yeah, look, buddy, I'm hitting all your lists now. Okay, so take it easy over there. And we touched about it, man. It's a horror in space. It's suspenseful. This is Ridley Scott's what I think is his best movie. It's just a favorite of mine. Tom Sterrett, obviously Sigourney Weaver, Yaphet Kotto, Harry Dean Stanton. It's got a great cast. Ian Holmes in it. John Hurt. It's got a great cast, and it's finding an alien spaceship here and exploring a distress call leads to the second half of a disaster of a movie, man. And the sets and the scenery and the way it's shot, and man. I'm a guy movie. This is a guy list, man. This is me. This is what I'm watching. 1979 Alien is my number 15. Number 14. Still got that sci-fi horror vibe going for me, man. I love 1982's The Thing from John Carpenter. So that's going to make my list there. These aliens showing up, all these places, man. This is pretty cool. So, but this is suspenseful, man. This is different. This is a tact on it, right? So this is a remake of, I think it's not called The Thing. It's called something else, but from the 50s.
Thing from Another World.
The Thing from Another World. Thank you. And and they try to be true to it in some senses, but it's a different, obviously it's a different setting, it's a different vibe and stuff like this, but there's paranoia, there's suspense, there's trust issues, definitely with the group of people here. They're in the Arctic, here, these scientists doing this research, and this is what happens. This is what they come across, shall we say. And visually, it's stunning. And listen, man, this is a guy flick, man. What do you want? This is what I'm watching. They're all guy flicks to me in a lot of sense. But these are my favorites. Not the best movies of all time, but they are to me in a lot of senses the best movies of all time, too. So the thing's a classic, man. Kurt Russell leading the charge with Keith David, Wilford Brimley again showing up. He's shown up a few times in my movies. The Firm, yes, he's The Natural. The thing's a classic, man. I just love the movie. It's a great horror sci-fi flick. What can I tell you? Number 13. Rich is going to love this one. I can tell you right now. Sean, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Doc, what the hell's going on? It's The Matrix, man.
Oh.
Told you. Hey, look, you fired the first bullet with Annie Hall, okay?
Yes,
so,
I did. I deserve that.
This is more my sweet spot. What can I tell you, man?
Yeah.
This was groundbreaking, man. When it came out, I saw this 2 or 3 times when it came out, man. This was like something you'd never seen before. The effects, the way it's done, the story, the backstory, but AI kind of taking over the human race, and basically the machines taking over us and using us as energy is what the background is. But the whole story of Neo and Morpheus fighting Neo, who's a hacker to join the fight, to fight the machines, basically is what it is. With Carrie Ann Moss was the co-lead with him. Like I said, visually it's stunning. Wachowski's did a fantastic job making this movie, and not to say the rest are in this level of what the sci-fi action adventure is here in this movie, but they're still good, but not in this level, man. Matrix is a classic. Number 12. Sounds very familiar to something Brian had, I think. Fargo. From 1996. Yes, I have the Coen Brothers classic here. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. The acting in this is fantastic. Francis McDormand and William H. Macy are the peaks in this, but don't get me wrong, Peter Stormare, you talked about, Steve Buscemi, the inept husband trying to set up some sort of messed up crime here, man, just to swindle his father-in-law to some cash, man. It's just like talk about everything that can go wrong in the story. And we see that in a few movies, and Rich has touched on one before, maybe, I don't know, but we talked about like Simple Plan and stuff like that in the past, where it has that kind of feel to it, I guess, in some senses. But Fargo, the setting is awesome. The script, it's dark. Yes, it's black comedy, man. There's scenes and elements of that for sure. It's the acting. It's the script and the acting, man. It's just top tier. Yeah, Fargo's a classic, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's you're darn tootin', that's making my top. Number 11. I don't know how to even say this. So this is pretty funny. I had Inglourious Bastards, and I had Pulp Fiction in my last 10. But if I have Reservoir Dogs at number 11, that sounds exactly almost like where I think Brian had his. So
yeah.
And you'll end up know this is my favorite Quentin flick. So I have Reservoir here.
Nice.
Once again, it's a script thing. We talk about Quentin. Script, acting, it's got it all. The elements, the flashbacks, the backstories. Tim Roth's character, Tim Roth doesn't get enough love. I talk about that one in the face. I think he's a great actor. Harvey Keitel, it's a great cast. Christopher Penn's fantastic in this movie. It's the robbery gone wrong and the meeting point afterwards in the warehouse. And the stories that intertwine as you get to that point throughout the whole movie. Yeah, Quentin did something special with this one. Love his movies. Lots of them. Only one that I really have a problem with, but generally speaking, he makes fantastic movies, man. Like top tier. And this is the top for me. Number 11, Reservoir Dogs.
Wow, we exactly matched there.
Yeah.
There is one scene in Reservoir Dogs, other than the ear scene, that I think is so cool. The stuff that he does is there's a scene where Mr. Orange obviously is laying where he is, and then Harvey Keitel's character goes into another room with Steve Buscemi, and the soap dispensers that are on the counter, the orange is separate from the white and the pink ones. So I thought that was really interesting. So it's basically telling you that the characters are separated right now. And I thought Quentin does stuff like that, and I think it's really interesting when he does that. You know, it's great attention to detail, and it's fantastic. I'm glad we had an exact match on that.
That's cool.
Very cool.
So, wow, guys,
Can I retort one thing to Doc real quick? All in fun, of course.
Sure.
That was a very guy list. What's your all-time favorite chick flick? Just out of curiosity.
I guess it's a Wonderful Life doesn't cover both sides, I guess, right? So
no, I'm just kidding. I mean,
Bonnie and Clyde's his favorite rom-com.
Not Pretty Woman.
Not Sleepless in Seattle either.
It's not that. No. Wow, that's hilarious. All right. Well, that's our 20 through 11, everybody. Please like, sub, comment down below. At this point, you guys should be, doing yours right along with us. I really appreciate everybody watching. Rich, thank you for joining me. Doc, thanks. Randy, I really appreciate it. Randy, of course, will continue to keep going further back in time until I think his number one is probably going to be some type of chiseled drawing on the Louvre caves. We're not really sure yet, but we appreciate his honesty and his list. That's one thing about it. So everybody take care. We'll catch you on the last film. All righty. Bye-bye.